Hey y'all, Steve Ritter here. I'm going to talk with you a little bit today about fermented pickles. And this is something that I mentioned, it's kind of a little pet project of mine that I've wanted to try. I've done it a few times now and I kind of want to share it with you, what we're doing. I want to talk a little bit at first here, before we get into actually making this batch, I'm going to talk a little bit about exactly what is fermented pickles. So it's lacto-fermented brined pickles is what it is. When I first started hearing about it, it's basically the same thing it's the same process as sauerkraut, as yogurt. What it does is we're creating an environment where the lactobacillus bacteria can thrive. And the lactobacillus bacteria are the good bacteria. They're all in your gut, they're all in there, they're all around you. It's like the force, right? Except it's for digesting stuff, right, Bella? Right. So if you like sauerkraut, it's the same kind of thing. And what it does is these lactobacillus bacteria convert sugars in food to lactic acid, which sour them a little bit, which help preserve them. So they kind of keep away the bad bacteria. That's the old way that they used to do to preserve food. It's using salt or salt brine to preserve food. Now this is a little different. If you come over here, Bella, this is a batch that I made last week. You can see there's one pickle in here. I eat them like crazy. So I've got one left. I'm going to show you here in a second. But you can see the water's kind of cloudy. The green on the top here, it's not mold or anything. That's dill floating on the top. You see the water's all cloudy. Okay, this is the lacto-fermented pickles. Now, if you look at this batch right here, this is some fridge cukes that we bought from the store. See how the water's kind of real clear? See that, Bella? Yeah, she's nodding yes. You can answer. I'm gonna take one of these pickles out and you can see, all right? You can kind of get up close, you can see this pickle, store-bought, and I'm gonna take this one out here. Now, believe it or not, I've heard some people actually can drink the pickle juice, and this is kind of what we're getting at. This is like pickle Gatorade. That's what this is right here. So some people can't, see I will. Yeah, it's pretty salty, but it's good. And it's good for your gut, okay? So you can see here the differences between the two pickles, okay? Now you can see the store-bought here, basically it's got a brine, it's a little salty brine, but they use vinegar. They use vinegar it doesn't, not so much preserve it as to sour it, to kind of keep the bacteria away. Again, all this is just a saltwater brine, but you can see it's a little softer, but still crunchy and it's good. So this is what I'm gonna make here. Now these things, once we make them, you're gonna put them to the side. It says anywhere from 3 to 7 days. I put mine aside the last batch about 4 days, and then I put them in the fridge. You keep them cool and dark, and they'll last for months, if they last that long. But as you can see, I had a whole jar like this, full of pickles, fermented pickles, and that's my last one. And I made that batch last week. I like them a lot. So this is in the military what we call a BOPJ. That's the acronym for a big old pickle jar. So that's what we're gonna start with here. This was an old, this is store-bought pickles, a big old jar, POBJ, a big old pickle jar full of pickles. And I just kind of cleaned it out, okay? Now, really, other than this, I've got some water back here. It's best to use distilled water, or you can use water out of the sink, chlorinated, but let it air out, filtered water. You wanna, so you got water, you got salt. Now you don't wanna use salt that's iodized salt. So you don't wanna use that. I'll use right here, what I've got here is pickling salt, or you can use kosher salt. So there's pickling salt, that's what that looks like. That's the ingredients, water, and then a saltwater brine. That's really what you need. Now from there, let your imagination run wild. For what I'm gonna do today, I've got 3 cloves of garlic. I've got I'll get back to that. I've got some dill as well I'm gonna use. And today I'm gonna put a little crushed red pepper on there to just kind of spicing things up a little bit. That's what I'm gonna use. Now, the last ingredient is some bay leaves, and you need some sort of tannin to go in there. And if you heard when I took a bite out of that last one, the crunch, still plenty crunchy. The tannins from a bay leaf or I've got a wax myrtle tree out back. I used to use that. The tannins help keep the crunch in, okay? So what I'm gonna do, it's really, really simple. And then obviously you wanna get also, you have your cucumbers. Now these are just some salad cucumbers, 4 to 6 inches long, that I got picked up from Walmart. Make sure they're all about the same kind of size. Get that, wash them, and then let them soak for about 10-15 minutes, which I have. And then in the meantime, I've heated up this water. Now you don't want to have it boiling, because if you pour boiling water in there, guess what? That's going to kill off a lot of the good bacteria that you're trying to help along. So just warm enough so that when I put the pickling salt in, it'll dissolve. That's all we're looking for here. So put it in there, stir this around. All I'm doing is to make it hot enough so that the salt dissolves in the water. Stir it around there. And I like pickling salt because it's already really fine and it's a lot easier for it to dissolve. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna do that for a little bit here. Make sure it's all nice and mixed up. Okay, I've got my jar here, and all I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put 1, 2, 3 big old bay leaves in there. Okay, I'm gonna put about a teaspoon of dill weed. Again, I like dill on my eggs, like dill on my pickles too. Right, Bella?
Correct.
Correct. About a teaspoonful of dill goes in there, and that's fine. And then I'm gonna put about the same, well, I'll probably put about, I don't know, we'll just put a smidgen. How much is a smidgen? A little bit more than a whatnot, right? So I'm gonna put that in there. Now that's my spices, okay? And so that's the spices gonna go in there. I got my brine ready to pour in. Now, all I'm gonna do is just take my pickles, or my cucumbers now, they're not pickles yet. Now, you could put them in whole. I like to cut them up because it's a little easier to pack them in, and I just cut them in half, okay? I'm gonna get enough here to put in there, and while I'm doing that, I'll talk to you. So, just cut these in half. Okay, and we'll come right back. I'll finish cutting these up and we'll come right back. Okay, so I got my cucumbers cut up now. And again, I like to cut them up a little bit because it makes it nice it makes it a little easier to pack them in here. And I'm gonna just kind of lay them in here one at a time. Ideally, I want to pack them in. Now, some folks talk about weighing them down, using a weight, a fermentation weight to keep. What you want to do is keep them out of the air. You want to keep them in the saltwater brine. You can kind of alternate. I got, fat end and a skinny end. You can kind of alternate. I'm gonna pack them in here so that more fit in. You got a fat end and a skinny end. You kind of pack them in. Yeah. Some folks will weight them down so they'll stay in the brine. That's fine. I didn't really have a problem with it. If you check on them every day, take a look at them. And then what I'll do, I'll make sure the lid's on nice and tight. That's a very important thing. Turn it upside down, and then turn it right side back up, just to keep them. I never really had a problem with it. There's talk also about if you start getting growth on the top of them and everything else, that's fine because it won't be down in the brine where your pickles will be. But again, I didn't see that. I haven't seen it because I usually eat them too fast. So it only takes a couple of days. And when we finish with these, we'll set them out in a cool, dry place. I'll set them on like a plate or something in case they bubble over, because you'll start to see them bubble. They'll start bubbling a little bit, and that's the lacto fermentation. The lactobacillus converting the sugars in the cucumbers to lactic acid, you'll start seeing that. So it's kind of like fermentation when you're making beer or something like that. You'll see that a lot. I forgot to do my garlic. So instead of putting the whole clove in, what I like to do, come on around here, Bella. So I'll take the garlic clove and I'll just take the flat end of the knife and just be careful you don't cut yourself. And I'll push down and mash it. It makes it a whole lot easier to peel it. But then I just toss the whole thing in. Crushing it like that too, that's a lot of Italian cooks would do that over there. When we ate over there in Italy, it releases all the goodness from the little flavor elves that live inside each garlic clove. Right? You believe that, Bella?
No.
No. You're a skeptic, I guess. Okay, so I got everything in here. You see how I kind of have everything packed in? If you pack it in tight enough, you know, you shouldn't have any float to the top. But what I've got now, what I did, and I'll have it all in the ingredients, but I've got 6 cups of water, and I put in 3.5 heaping tablespoons of salt. Now you can vary the salt. The last batch I made, I put 5 tablespoons of salt in there. It's obviously pretty salty. The more salty it is, the less lacto-friendly it is. But you want it some salty, because if it's not salty enough, then you're going to get some other bad bacteria growing in there. So 6 cups of water and 3.5 tablespoons of salt. I'm going to go with that this time, and you can vary that based on your taste. When you take the pickles out, you can just rinse them off a little bit, and that'll get some of the salt taste off of them. But I heated it up, as you can see. Can you get in there real good? Salt's good and dissolved. I'm gonna pour them in. And if I have a little bit left over, that's fine, because you want the right brine mixture. I just pour it in, and I'm gonna leave a little bit of headspace at the top, just in case. But then I'm gonna put you can see how clear it is, and you can go back to the beginning of the video and you can see how dark that other water was from the last batch that I made. But you can see, and pretty much you keep them in there. If you want to really weigh them down, if you're really worried about it, take a Ziploc bag and put a little water in there, and then set that on top, and that'll kind of keep it all down in the water mixture. But I find that it really doesn't matter. I take the lid on, and I don't twist it or anything. I just put it on nice and loose so that any water in there can escape. And then I just take a plate, something that will catch it, like this, and I put it inside this and find a cool, dark place somewhere and let it sit for about anywhere from 3 to 5 days. Really check it 3 days. About 5 days or so, you can take one out at the 3-day point and sample it and see how it is. And when it gets too soft, if it gets too soft, then you're gonna wanna get it right in the fridge. But you can experiment a little bit. I find that about 4 days, 3 to 4 days, it's about the right spot. It'll continue fermenting in the fridge, but about 4 days, then put them in the fridge and then enjoy. So that's your lacto-fermented pickles. And don't forget to like and subscribe down the bottom. And again, any questions about anything, go ahead, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks, we'll see y'all later.